There's a ghost! She just disappeared! Run!
In the bustling market of Zuba was alive with sounds and scents that could awaken even the laziest soul. Sellers shouted out their ways, the aroma of hot okpa mingled with fried akara, and children darted between stalls, laughing and playing. But above all, one thing stood out, the scent of rice at the center of the market. Stood Mama Femi's stall, famous for its coconut rice. The food had a taste that had seemed so delicious, and no one could replicate it, no matter how hard they tried. Her customers claimed they felt a sense of warmth and joy with every spoon that entered into their mouth. Every day, people lined up, sometimes for hours, just to get a plate Mama Femi's coconut rice. One woman called out, "You must tell us your secret. How do you cook coconut rice so good?" Mama Femi chuckled softly. Her voice was very calm. "I cook with love, and that's all." Her response always made people smile, but one young girl, Toby, found it hard to believe. Toby was a clever, curious 13-year-old girl. She was known for noticing things others didn't that day. As she stood with her mother on the queue for the rice, she observed Mama Femi closely. She never seemed to sweat, even though the fire burned hot. Her movements was just too perfect, as if she was gliding rather than walking. And then there was no shadow behind her. Mom Toby whispered, tapping her mother slowly. "Did you notice that Mama Femi doesn't have shadow?" Her mother laughed, brushing off her comment. "Stop being silly, Toby," as she focused on the food. But Toby couldn't shake the feeling that something was off as she ate his coconut rice. As she watched Mama Femi closely, she noticed that no one ever saw her arrive at the market or leave. She was just there. That night, Toby lay awake in bed, the delicious taste of the coconut rice still on her tongue, and the strange sight of Mama Femi haunting her thoughts. "I'm going to find out the truth," she whispered to herself. The next day, Toby returned to the market with her best friend Shola. Together, they observed Mama Femi from a distance as always. A long line stretched before her, and the sound of laughter and satisfied sighs filled the air as customers enjoyed her coconut rice. "Toby, this is ridiculous," Shola said, eating her roasted corn. "She's just a great cook. Let's go." But Toby wasn't convinced. There is something strange about her. "Shola, she is not like the other vendors. Have you ever seen her buy ingredients or even carry anything to the market?" Shola paused, thinking, "Well, now that you mention it, maybe she cooks everything at home and brings it here early," maybe Toby said. Though she wasn't satisfied, "Let's wait until the market closes tonight. I want to see where she goes." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the market began to empty, Toby and Shola ate their roasted corn behind a stack of baskets near Mama Femi's shop. They watched her as she served her last customer, cleaned her cooking pot, and packed up a stall. But instead of heading towards the main road, like the other vendors, Mama Femi took a different path, one that led toward the edge of the forest. "Come here," Toby whispered, holding Shola's hand. "You're crazy," Shola muttered, but she followed reluctantly. They trailed Mama Femi from a safe distance. Careful to stay hidden among the shadows, the path grew darker, and cheerful sounds of the markets faded behind them. Soon they found themselves on a narrow dirt road surrounded by thick trees. Mama Femi walked ahead of them, a figure almost glowing in the moonlight. Then she did something that made Toby and Shola freeze in their tracks. She began to hum a haunting melody. The sound was soft at first, but it grew louder, echoing through the trees. Suddenly, she stopped in front of an old, crumbling hut. The girls crouched behind a bush as they watched her push open the door and step inside. "Are we really doing this?" Shola whispered, her voice trembling. "We have to," Toby replied, her heart pounding. They were so close, peeping through a small crack in the wooden wall. Inside, Mama Femi stood by her hut, which now glowed with a airy blue light as she stared to the moon. Her form began to change, her vibrant figure faded, revealing a ghostly, transparent body. Toby's eyes widened in shock. She's a ghost," he whispered. Toby and Shola murmured silently, holding their breath as they watched the strange scene unfold inside the hut. Mama Femi's ghostly form moved gracefully around the glowing pots, a humming tone, into whispers, into the air, and this sent chills down the boys' spines. This coconut rice binds them to me. As long as they eat, they will never suspect their joy feeds my curse, and their love keeps me here. What does she mean? Shola whispered, clutching Toby's arm. I don't know, Toby replied, barely able to take his eyes away from the hut. Mama Femi dipped her hand into the pot, and the glowing bright light seemed to respond to her touch, swelling and shimmering as if alive. She lifted a handful of the rice and it disintegrated into the air like miost, filling the room with an other-worldly glow. Suddenly, Mama Femi stopped. Her head snapped toward the crack in the wall. Her glowing eyes locked onto the girl's hiding spot. Who is there? She called out, a voice echoing Toby, and Shola froze for a moment. There was only silence. Then Mama Femi moved towards the door. Run, Toby whispered. Grabbing Shola's arm, the girls bolted their feet, pounding against the dead road as Mama Femi's voice rang out behind them. You shouldn't have come here, children. The air grew cold as they ran, and the path seemed to stretch endlessly. Tobias stared a glance over her shoulder and saw Mama Femi gliding after them, a ghostly form barely touching the floor. Faster! She shouted. They burst out of the forest and into the edge of the market, where the comforting sounds of the town began to return. As they reached the safety of the market square, Mama Femi stopped at the forest edge, a glowing figure fading into the darkness. You can't escape the truth forever. A voice echoed before they fell silence. Toby and Shola collapsed onto the ground, their faces pale. What? What just happened? Shola stammered. She's not human, Toby said, her voice trembling. Mama Femi is a ghost, and that's right. Of course we have to tell someone. The next morning, Toby and Shola shared their terrifying discovery with Tobia's parents. At first, her father, Mr. Adams, laughed it off. Ghosts in our market. You girls must have been dreaming, but Toby insisted. I saw it with my own eyes. Papa, Mama Femi isn't human. She's using the coconut rice to keep people under some kind of spell. Her mother, Mrs. Adams, frowned thoughtfully. It's true that no one knows much about Mama Femi. She's always been different. Maybe we should inform the elders. By noon, a small group of village elders had gathered at Mr. Adams' house. Toby retold the story in vivid detail, with Shola nervously confirming it. Though the villagers were skeptical at first, they decided to investigate. We'll go to the forest tonight, Elder Damola declared. If this story is true, we must put an end to whatever is happening that evening as darkness fell. Toby, Shola, and the elders made their way to the forest. The air was thick with tension, and even the insects seemed quieter than usual. Toby led them down the dirt path, his heart pounding with every step. When they reached the old earth, it looked even more scary than before. The wooden walls seemed to sag under some invisible weight, and the faint smell of cooked coconut rice lingered in the air. Stay back, Elder Damola said, motioning for the girls to remain outside. The elders pushed open the door cautiously, their lanterns casting flickering lights in the dim interior. Inside, the pot stood in the center of the room, glowing faintly. As before, the air shimmered with an unnatural energy. But Mama Femi was nowhere to be. Is this some kind of trick? One elder muttered, stepping closer to the pot. Suddenly, the pot began to bubble violently, and a cold wind swept through the room. Mama Femi's ghostly form materialized before them, her eyes glowing with unearthly light. Why have you come here? She demanded. A voice echoing, the elders stood their ground. Though fear was etched into their faces, Elder Damola stepped forward. Mama Femi, who are you? Why are you doing this to our people? Mama Femi's expression softened, and for a moment, she looked almost human again. I was cursed long ago, she said, a voice tinged with sorrow. I was a proud cook who wanted to be the best, no matter the cost. I sought help from a dark spirit, and in exchange for unmatched skills, I lost my soul. Now I'm bound to this place, feeding on the joy my coconut rice brings to others. It's the only way I can exist. But you're deceiving the people. Another elder shouted, "This must stop, Mama." Femi's eyes glowed brighter. "If you stop me, you will make me to wander in eternal torment. Let me stay and I will continue to bring happiness to the market. The choice is yours." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Elder Damola turned. "You discovered this. What do you think we should do?" Toby hesitated, torn between pity and fear. Finally, she said, "The people deserve the truth. If she is bound by a curse, maybe there is a way to free her." Mama Femi's expression changed, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. "There is, but it comes at a price." The room grew still as everyone waited for Mama Femi to explain. A ghostly form hovered over the glowing pot, and the shadows around them seemed to dance. "The curse binds me to this pot," she began, a voice soft but heavy with regret. "To break it, someone must willingly take my place. They must offer their soul to the pot and endure the burden I have carried for decades. Only then will I be free." The elders gasped, murmuring among themselves. The weight of her in the air like a storm cloud. "That's not fair," Toby said, stepping forward. His voice was steady, despite his trembling hands. "Why should someone else have to suffer your mistake?" Mama Femi's expression darkened. "Fair? Do you think I wanted this? I was desperate, blinded by pride and greed. I have lived through endless moments, cooking coconut rice, but never leaving. This is the only way." Elder Richard held up his hands to silence the group. "If we leave this cause unbroken, what happens to you and to us?" Mama Femi sighed, a ghostly form flickering. "I will continue to exist, feeding on the joy of those who eat my coconut rice. But as time passes, the hunger will grow. Eventually, I will drain more than happiness. I will take their souls." The elders' echoes. "No." Toby felt a shiver run down her spine. Elder Amos, the oldest and wisest among them, stepped forward. His voice was firm. "If this curse cannot be broken without harming anybody, then we must destroy the pot. If it binds you, perhaps its destruction will set you free." "No, Mama Zara," cried a form surging with energy. "You don't understand. Destroying this pot will destroy me. I will vanish into nothing less. Lost forever." Elder Amos turned to the group. "The choice is clear. We cannot sacrifice another soul to this curse. It's time to end it, once and for all." The other elders nodded in agreement, but Toby hesitated. "Wait," she said. "If we destroy her, aren't we as cruel as the spirits that cursed?" "There must be another way." Mama Femi looked at Toby, her expression softening. "Child, you have a kind heart, but sometimes there is no other way. I have accepted my fate." Elder Damola raised his staff, preparing to smash the pot. Mama Femi closed her eyes, a form flickering like a dying flame. She whispered with one sweet motion. The staff came down, shattering the pot into pieces. A blinding light filled the room, and a chilling wail echoed through the air. Mama Femi's ghostly form dissolved into mist. And then there was silence. The next day, the market was quiet than usual. Mama Femi's shop stood empty. The lingering smell of her coconut rice, a bittersweet memory. Toby walked through the market with Shola, her heart heavy. "Do you think she's at peace now?" Shola asked. Toby nodded slowly. "I hope so. She made a mistake, but she didn't deserve to suffer forever." The elders later held a gathering, explaining what had happened. The villagers mourned the loss of Mama Femi, but they were grateful to be free from the curse. Late that night, as Toby lay in bed, she thought she heard a friendly humming in the breeze. It was the same melody Mama Femi used to sing, gentle and haunting, smiling softly. She whispered, "Mama Femi, rest in peace." Thank you for watching this interesting story. What have you learned from it? Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel so I'll get notified whenever I post a new video.